Anyway, thanks everyone for coming. My name's Rob. I organize Idea IPO. We've been doing events in Silicon Valley for many years. We hold events multiple times a week from San Jose to San Francisco. We always have a busy calendar of events. I'd like to highlight two events that are coming up. Thursday, May the 4th, at a law firm I will not name. It's across the street. We have an event called Raising Money for Your Startup. Thursday, May 11th, we have a panel discussion, latest innovations in deep learning. We've got an awesome panel lined up, and that's going to be at Nokia in Sunnyvale. So check out all the details for those events and all of our events on our website, idea.ipo.com. We were launched officially on February 1st, 2010. At that time, we had no members and no events on our calendar. At this stage, we have over 50,000 members among all our meetup groups in the Bay Area. We've completed over 1,729 events. By any standard, by any measure, we're the most active, most prolific startup event organization in Silicon Valley, bar none. I appreciate that authentic enthusiasm. Thank you so much for that. In any case, our mission is to promote entrepreneurship, support entrepreneurs, build community, and provide value in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. To that end, we provide content that is practical, actionable, and relevant, stuff that you can actually use to succeed as entrepreneurs. We believe in building community because Silicon Valley is an aspirational ecosystem, and it attracts people from all over the world who come here to do great things. In fact, I'd like to know who here is not originally from Silicon Valley? Who here was born and raised in Silicon Valley? Oh, great. Well, welcome to Silicon Valley, you guys. Well, whether you were born and raised in the Valley or you arrived last night, it's important for us to provide multiple channels for you to meet people, build relationships, and grow your network. So in addition to the numerous content-oriented events that we have throughout the week, we have a number of social events. On a Friday night, we have TGIF Mixers, and they're hosted by one of our team members, CJ Terrell. So let's hear from CJ. He's going to tell us a little bit about those events.
Hey everyone, I'm CJ. Thanks, Rob. So what he was mentioning were these TGIF mixers. They're really cool ways to get out in the community and just meet people casually without an agenda. And we have a lot of people who come in through the area from a multitude of countries. Every time we normally have like probably 8 to 15 countries represented, which makes it pretty exciting to come out and see what they're all about. Our next one's going to be on the 5th of this coming month in about a week and a half. And they are free. And they're going to be at the Hyatt Regency in Santa Clara from 8 to 11 p.m. I highly recommend coming out every time. People really do have a good time, and we have a lot of repeat members. Again, it's going to be on the 5th. Hyatt Regency starts at 8 o'clock, and I hope to see you there. Thanks. Enjoy tonight.
With regard to value, it's important that we provide value at each and every one of our events. Not just value for your money, which is important because we know many entrepreneurs are struggling financially. So we make sure our events are affordable. And if you cannot afford the cover charge, let me know. We can work something out. We always need people to help us execute our events, help us organize, and promote our events. So in addition to value for your money, we also want to make sure that you have a decent meal at each and every one of our events. Was this meal decent? Well, let's thank Pillsbury Law Firm for that decent meal. For those of you that are hankering for Costco pizza, that's coming back in a couple weeks, FYI. More importantly, though, we want to make sure that at each and every one of our events, we want to make sure that you get value for your time, which is your most valuable resource. Anyone here getting any younger? Always checking. There's always someone in the crowd, besides Adam. So at each and every one of our events, when you invest your valuable time to be here, we want to make sure you maximize your ROI. We have many partners that help us do what we do: law firms, venture capital firms, angel investor groups, incubators, accelerators, colleges, universities, lots of other players in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. So again, tonight we're grateful to Pillsbury Law Firm for hosting us at this beautiful venue and providing us, well, with a great moderator. So let's hear it for Pillsbury once again. A few of our other partners are here tonight. I want to have them come up and say a few quick words. Let's hear it for Nicola and IoT World.
Hi everybody, my name's Nicola. I'm just here to let everybody know about an event that we're running called Internet of Things World. It's taking place next month in the Santa Clara Convention Center from the 16th to the 18th. We're expecting around 11,000 people there. We do actually have a number of different tracks of content running each day, including a VR and AR track. So we've got speakers in that particular one from the likes of Coca-Cola, Garmin, Ralph Lauren, Wells Fargo, Samsung, just to name a few. We also have around 100 startups attending with the startup program as well. So if anybody's interested in participating in that, it'd be lovely to speak to you. Thank you.
Okay, next up, let's hear it for Mike and CTO 911.
Thank you, Rob. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike, the CTO 911. I offer consulting services for startups and entrepreneurs that want to turn their vision into working software. So I essentially, try to understand, get a breakdown for what you're thinking in terms of your business vision or your particular problem that you're trying to solve that you need somebody to take a look at. Come in, create a plan, and build out a solution or architecture if you need that, and create a team and start executing. Once we finish that, you get to have different checkpoints along the way so you can see how the project is progressing, and and then take it all the way to launch. So if you have any projects or ideas that you need help, then I'll be here talking to you. So grab a card. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Chrissy from Quixy. Let's hear it for Chrissy.
Thanks, Rob. Hi, my name is Chrissy. I work for Quixy. We're a mobile security app company that prevents the app from getting hacked. So we work with several companies in the retail cybersecurity for your app. We ensure that your app is protected, and we do the vulnerability assessments on mobile apps. So if you have any questions, come see me after the event. Thank you.
So though our local mission is to support entrepreneurs here in Silicon Valley, our greater mission is to democratize entrepreneurship and innovation all around the world. To that end, we have a robust YouTube channel, youtube.com/idea-to-IPO. We have tons of videos. We've documented and archived many of our events. This rich, valuable content is available on demand, anytime, anywhere, totally free of charge. So whether you're in Palo Alto, Maui, Moscow, or Timbuktu, anywhere you have access to Wi-Fi, you have access to great content that we produce here in Silicon Valley. Our partner in this endeavor is Tim Jeggers of Jeggers Films, one of the top professional videographers in all of Silicon Valley. Let's hear it for Tim.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody. Full house. This is awesome. So I'm Tim of Jeggers Films, like Rob was saying. I do multimedia production all around the Bay Area, specifically video and some photography. I mainly cover seminars and conferences and talks like this, put it up on the web in like a webinar style format, cover some panel discussions, a lot of great conversations amongst industry professionals such as the panel we have tonight. And I'm excited to be here. And yeah, if you have any questions related to what I do, I'd be more than happy to chat it up a little bit later. I'll be around breaking down and hanging out for a little bit. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Okay, so for tonight's events, we're going to have a panel discussion going on until 8 o'clock. Please hold your questions until 8 o'clock. At that point, we're going to have audience Q&A. We'll have audience members with questions form a line here, ask your question, and we'll do that till 8:30. We'll try and take as many questions as possible. We'll have networking from 8:30 to 9. As a courtesy to our hosts, we'd like to leave the building by 9 p.m. I hear there's an after party going on at someone's house somewhere. I just don't know the address. But seriously, there's a Starbucks down the street if you want to continue the conversation. They're open until, I believe, 11. So without further ado, I want to introduce our moderator tonight. He is one of the top corporate startup attorneys in Silicon Valley. He's a partner here at this distinguished firm. He's moderated a number of our events in the past. He is awesome. Let's hear it for Steve Wurzburg.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to start out by asking you guys in the audience a few questions, then I'll have the panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll get going. So, first question I'm going to ask you is which of these categories you fit in, and if you could just raise your hand. But first I'll give you the categories. Entrepreneur, technologist, investor, enterprise executive or employee, or other. Okay, so how many of you are entrepreneurs?
Wow.
Okay. Technologists? Investors? You guys should all raise your hand. Enterprise executive or employee? And other. I'm an other. All right. Okay. And then for those of you who are in the VR or AR space, I've got a second question, and that is, what part of the space are you in? And the alternatives are either you do core hardware, you do VR content, or you're in an AR vertical. And I'm going to give you a few choices: healthcare, real estate, education, retail, or other. So how many are into core hardware? Okay.
All things have changed.
VR content.
Okay.
And then the AR verticals, first healthcare, real estate, education, retail, and other. Okay, so I think that gives us an idea.
That's well done, Steve.
Thanks. So now a couple questions for you guys. The first one is, how much money do you think is invested in the AR, VR space by venture capitalists during 2016? And I'm going to ask you to raise your hand for the answer. You can either guess 100 million, 500 million, a billion, 2 billion, or 5 billion. So how many think 100 million? 500 million? 1 billion? 2 billion?
What was the other option?
5 billion. Okay. Well, so the answer is 2.3 billion.
Oh, you said 2? Oh. Good job.
And the second question would be, out of that, how much do you think was hardware? I'm going to give you either 20%, 40%, 60%, or 80%. So how many think 20%?
Oh, I think it's like
40%? 60%? 80%? Well, you guys are pretty smart. It's 40%. And
Dude,
out of that, Magic Leap was about 30%
that's what I thought. Yeah.
itself.
Was that for 2017?
16. They invested. It's the beginning of 16, I think. And then the next biggest layer would be the services and solutions sector, which was about 20%, and then the VR video sector, which was about 10%. Okay, enough of the fun and games. I'll let each of the panelists introduce themselves. And the first, I will ask F to introduce himself.
Sure.
And he and I each have something in common. We probably
Shame.
are the only two people
Shame.
here with BlackBerries. Anybody else have a BlackBerry?
They still make those?
No, they're antique.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
I can't just look cool in any way now, so thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm F. Lindenbaum, Ephraim Lindenbaum from Advanced Ventures. We're Silicon Valley venture fund investing out of our third fund. I'm a recovering entrepreneur myself, so I have sat in your chairs out there before becoming a venture capitalist. I can't tell which is better yet. Just ask me in a couple years. And we've actually been involved in AR and VR since I was an entrepreneur in the 90s in the first waves of what was considered blue screen augmented reality. We've looked at many of the cycles and invested in one company in this space at this point, but frankly, we've looked at many. We believe things are changing quite a bit, and in fact, this week was a banner week with the release of GoPro's first VR capture camera there. So it's going to be a lively discussion, and I'm going to be the contrarian tonight. Just want to let you know.
Hey, my name is Ryan Wong. I'm the founding partner of Apples Capital, and we are a 20 million VC fund, early stage VC fund based in San Francisco. Mainly investing in VR AR space. Average check size could range between 100K to 500K, and under the VR AR space, we are pretty flexible in terms of hardware, software, content platform, B2B enabling technologies. So we pretty much invest in the full spectrum.
Hi, my name is Istvan Janier. I am with Nexstar Partners, which is a $100 million Series A, Series B fund, mainly focusing on the mobile ecosystem and wireless infrastructure. And we look at everything that funnels into that. So I look at AR, VR, machine learning, AI, video streaming, and my colleagues are looking at cybersecurity, IoT, and just general infrastructure innovations.
You can keep going, dude. Okay.
No, it's enough for now.
Effie was saying he's going to be the contrarian. It's like the contrarian for the contrarians who believe in virtual reality, because we're all contrarians here technically. My name is Adam Draper. I'm the founder and managing director of Boost VC. We have now, we're making science fiction a reality, is our one-liner. We've backed 180 startups in a programmatic approach where we're an accelerator. We provide housing, office space, we invest in the startups. The first vertical that we went after was blockchain, and about 2.5 years ago we added virtual reality. We've backed about 55 companies in the space. We focus on mostly software, and education is sort of my 10-year plan in VR, and so anything that moves the needle to us learning in VR is sort of my thesis. I'll just keep talking for the next hour if you guys want.
No, I'll ask a question now. So this is for each of you. We'll just go down the row.
Which way?
We'll let you start.
Okay, cool.
And ask you to describe a couple of AR, VR investments that you've made and why you invested in them and how you think they're doing.
Well, they're all doing amazing, obviously. And I love them all equally.
You're going to be a great dad, Adam.
Yeah. I am. I have a daughter, about to have a second one next month. So a couple companies that we've backed. Let's see here. We backed one called Janus VR. They're building the metaverse, so they're building the social legs in the virtual reality world. They have a very tightly knit developer community. They're doing really great. They raised some money from Lear Ventures, and then we backed Mindshow, which is basically like rapid animation in VR, and it's a really, really exciting thing. Like being able to make Pixar-like content in virtual reality is a really great thing. We backed another one that sort of does similar things called Flipside, and then which is I think it's a huge value add because making content, animating content is a very high intensity. Like takes. He had a metric. What was the metric? It was some crazy number of hours for people to build. But yeah, a bajillion hours to make one Pixar movie. And he's made it so that you can act out as these characters and sort of film yourself and record it. And so Flipside, while they've been in the program for the last 3 months, has made like 20 episodes of an animated series, which has never been able to be done before. So it's pretty exciting. Tools for creating content is a big sort of theme that we've backed a lot of. And then on the education front, we backed one called Unimmersive that's focused on aggregate. It's sort of like the Netflix of education in VR, sort of like they've aggregated a lot of experiences that you can use. They're on 350,000 downloads of headsets. And yeah, so those are a couple.
Thanks.
Sure. So I'll mention a couple. So our most recent one is called actually, I'll back up. So since we have this mobile thesis, just overall for the fund, I should say that the way we view the world is we are probably going to be backing most of the AR and VR delivery approaches and solutions, right? So how do you deliver AR and VR experiences to the devices that where you are going to be experiencing them? And so we believe fundamentally that the phone is going to be the device that's going to take VR to scale. It's not going to be any of the high-priced currently available head-mounted displays. And so so the first one that I'll mention is called GridRaster, which is a company that enables rendered experiences to stream from the cloud. So the high fidelity rendering that's needed with GPUs is going to take place in the cloud, and it'll be streamed down to the mobile headset, and they make it so that it's still within 20 milliseconds of motion to photon latency. So it's a really cool technology. The second one is not specifically AR, VR related. It's called Vasona Networks. And they actually have an appliance that they sell into the telcos that sits in line with wireless traffic. And it actually monitors the wireless streaming media traffic. And they know exactly what the capacity is in each cell in the cell towers, and shape the traffic so that your streaming experience is optimized. So I'll stop there.
We currently have 6 VR/AR portfolio companies, and if I have to pick 2 to talk about,
You can pick more than 2.
Okay, I think I want to kind of talk about something in addition to what Adam had mentioned, which is tools for content creators, and something in addition to Istvan has just mentioned, which is some enabling technologies that's based on the current infrastructure. So one of the company I invested in is called Wave. So they are doing a VR EDM platform. So EDM stands for electronic dance music. It's a VR social experience that combines virtual reality with electric dance music. So first of all, it's something that combines VR and music. And if we think about these 2 things, right, we all know that VR is an immersive media. And when we think about music, it's actually another type of immersive media. And being able to create something in an immersive media through a immersive media, that just naturally makes sense. And the way you can experience music, you can interact with music inside virtual reality is just called magical. So it's not only about VR and music, it's also about VR and social, right? So people are able to experience the same music together virtually at the same space at the same time. And within the VR social, the whole experience is just it just blows people's mind. When I just see the video before I tried their demo, I was not persuaded. But as soon as I tried the demo, I'm converted immediately. So that's the company, The Wave. And the other company I like to mention is a company I invested called VSpace. So they are developing some fundamental light field technology. And I think what's interesting about VR is I think 80% of people in the industry, when they look at VR, no matter from they are content creators or no matter they are technologists, they are looking into VR still with their traditional mindset. They are thinking about, okay, how can I use existing game engines to develop VR content? And how can I fit into the current video streaming codec and create 360 videos? But I think what's the most compelling content and the most compelling technologies around VR are something that's not depending on some legacy type of technologies, but build something from ground up, build VR, full VR, right? Not think outside the box, right? Because VR is a new media for us to have the opportunity to think outside the box. So I think light field is one of the technologies that are being ignored by a lot of people, but when it releases full potential, it can completely change everything. So one of the very straightforward benefits of light field capturing technology compared to the 360 video technology as we know today is that 360 video, you don't have 60 degree of freedom. So you can't move around the scene. You can only look into different directions, but you don't have the extra 3 degree of freedom to, to be able to move around, to have position tracking. And basically, when you try to move around, but you feel the world is gluing to your head, it breaks the immersion of VR. So having a light field capturing system allows people to capture content with 60 degrees of freedom, and that enables the true immersion of VR. And I think that's what we can call as true VR video instead of just the 360 video as we know today. So I think that's very promising, and that's also very compelling to me.
Cool. So I think we mentioned earlier, I'm going to be the contrarian tonight. So if you follow us on Twitter, Advanced Ventures, you'll see we shot out a couple of tweets today that'll be kind of fun. One talking about kind of acquisitions and mergers in the VR space. And then the most recent one was the state of venture investing in VR, which they're calling the trough of disillusion. So I'm going to be the contrarian for a couple of reasons. One is I think it's really helpful for entrepreneurs to kind of see it through our lens sometimes, and so what I'm going to do is instead of talking about deals we've done, deals that we haven't done and looked at lately, and maybe why we didn't do them, because I think that as an entrepreneur, that's very helpful in allowing you to understand why we might not call you back, or we might not take that meeting, or why we'll ghost you, and you'll just never know why. So from our standpoint, we have a different lens that we look through things beyond just it's a great idea or a great business. I mean, to give you an idea, I looked at a VR company this afternoon with another venture capital buddy of mine, and without going too deep, they were building something that looked like a Wayfair. It's the next generation of headset, and there were batteries and chips in the little arms there, and it was really, really cool, and it's going to make everything great. Okay, well, we're venture capitalists. Our scale needs, our return on capital needs are such that, essentially a sunglasses company with little video monitors inside are going to be really hard pressed. Because if you think about our model, what we're really needing to do is have one or two companies out of, let's say, 10 that get over the finish line, that have meaningful exits. The current rate of failures in our business is well over 80%. Some people believe over 90%. So if you think about it, if we invest in 10 of you, 9 of you are going to get hit by a bus, and you're gone, right? And then that one remaining company that's out there is not only going to have to pay back as much as we've essentially deployed to all of you in total, it's then got to return enough that we're going to be able to have the outside returns our investors expect. So what that forces us to do is to look for companies that are going to be able to scale really quickly, and deliver an incredibly meaningful return. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that a great company shouldn't be done or you shouldn't start it. What it means is you shouldn't come to us, because you've got to understand what we're looking for in order to be a good fit for your companies. And so to give you an idea, we looked at another video, kind of a broadly based VR platform a couple weeks ago. And the biggest challenge was its total market capacity. And it was, believe it or not, in the health tech and in the dental business. Maybe on the outside in 5 or 10 years, that'll be a $700 million market. Well, that sounds like a lot of money, but if you're going to build a company that's going to be maybe worth a couple of billion, you're not going to do it in a $700 million market, because that'd be more than the entire market. So from our standpoint, we have to look at companies that, while they could be phenomenal, they have to be able to deliver the scale and the return that we're looking for, which means that, not only are we maybe not a good fit, but other businesses that we would normally consider, high growth, might not even be compatible. So the way that we look at VR is it's in one of its developmental waves. There was an early wave where we saw the first levels of acquisition. Then it's kind of moved into this wave where we are kind of seeing a very slow adoption curve. They're expensive devices. People are still trying to figure out how to make it work. I mean, Adam's invested in every company that he's seen. And he's playing the law of averages game, right, down there. Yeah. So what I think that we've noticed is, when you get into this kind of a trough cycle, you have to pattern match into something. So what we're looking at is, well, what does VR fit against? And we were talking about this earlier. Is it video game consoles? Is it the mobile business? What kind of category does it match up? Because that's what we do in the video VC space is we match up a pattern and we say, okay, this is like this other business. This is how it's going to grow. So this is when we should invest because it's going to scale rapidly, right? And I think we're still trying to decide because it's such a novel concept, having headsets that cost several hundred, if not several thousands, having content that's very challenging to develop. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the first big steps is the ability to create inexpensive content and the ability to deploy that content and then view that content. So I'm hopeful these guys at the end of the table are going to fix most of it. And GoPro just launched a $600 camera that captures VR this week. So I think we're headed down the right path, but I'm still contrarian.
I was going to say, it's not sounding contrarian all of a sudden. But
I had to end on an up note, man. Come on, don't bum everybody out.
Well, it sounded like that most of the investments or the non-investments that were made were in VR as opposed to AR. And I'm wondering if you guys could first define AR versus VR, tell me whether that's a meaningful distinction or if it's kind of melding together, and then maybe talk about the near and long-term future of each of those. So,
You do the primer down there, don't you?
Yeah, so AR means augmented reality, and it's an overlay of data on this actual world. So you're still seeing this world, but then there might be
Pokemon.
Pokemon is a good example. Or like, if I did have glasses, I could have like a AI tiger pet that's like right next to me that you guys can't see unless we're like friends, and then that would be augmented reality. Where I'm still hanging out with you guys here on Earth, but I've overlaid data with a tiger pet. So anytime you guys think augmented reality, think tiger pet. And then VR is complete immersion in a digital world that could be anything. So one of the things, so a lot of people, the reason that we've all focused on the VR is because, or this is me speaking for everyone. I
Yeah, you
don't
just
know
keep
what
going,
their
buddy.
opinions are.
Just leave the cat thing out of it, man.
The augmented reality is 3 years out. Like they're just delivering the DK1s. HoloLens has been out for almost a year. I think the DK2 is going to come out in the next 6 months to a year, which means that we're where Oculus was 3 years ago. So we're literally 3 to 4 years behind in augmented reality, allowing third-party developers to be able to build applications for AR. Now, if you look at the phone as an augmented reality platform, yeah, there might be something there. The most successful and only augmented reality thing really is Pokemon, but I think there are other applications. There's a lot of other interesting things that are happening. Technically, Snapchat is a great use case in augmented reality, like the face mapping stuff. That's pretty intense technology. They're getting ready to not be on the phone. Like that's what they're taking steps towards. So I think augmented reality, like as a whole, is about 3 years out. Even though we probably have all experienced augmented reality without really thinking about it. And then VR, it's now, and I have one in my garage, and it's awesome.
What do you keep in your garage, man?
Dude, it's my exercise. I go out in there, I play Space Pirates for 45 minutes, I'm sweaty, it's great. Who has used the HTC Vive? Have you guys played Space Pirates? Okay, well, you should. Sound like 80% of machines for the HTC Vive. It's fantastic. I have a top 300 score, no big deal or anything, but
Does anybody else want to talk about
Space
AR,
Pirates training.
VR?
Space Pirates training.
So for sake of completeness, I think we should also mention the Google Glass thing as an AR.
There's also a high-end one called Daiquiri, but yes. Google Glass.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I think when people say AR, it's really sort of three things. One is this Google Glass thing, which is not really in front of your field of view, but up and to the right or up and to the left, and it's more informational, right? It's not trying to pretend that there's something additional in the world, but giving you additional information, like, you know, you've got mail. And then we have AR that the HoloLens style that Adam was talking about, which is actually mixed reality now, right? So that's the other distinction that I just wanted to throw in there, which is, you know, really the reason, the difference between AR and mixed reality is the ability to refocus, right? So just plain AR, you have a screen exploding in front of you, whereas in mixed reality, there might be a little object in front of you, and you have to sort of focus on it, and there could be one farther away.
Is that what everyone's making the distinction between mixed reality and AR? Because I'm like, why are we even calling something mixed reality?
I think it's a hashtag.
Yeah, because
I think that way you can just fill out those tweets.
Yeah, and I guess with Tango, you actually also throw in the ability to be aware of the environment and occlude objects, right? So for me, I shouldn't be seeing the whole phone, right? If it's there.
Well, and throw in 360 video as well, which is sort of a gateway drug, right, to MR and AR and VR. But I think, one of the things we're seeing is this distinction that Adam had brought up initially, and I'll like really tie that back to something simple, like, for example, Wayfair. Is everybody familiar with the e-commerce, home furniture, home goods? So essentially some data just came out, and Adam actually has some hands-on on this one, or some eyes on this one, but in particular, they're utilizing some early AR on mobile in order to allow people to superimpose pieces of furniture into pictures of their rooms. Okay, so that totally makes sense, all right? No one's in there playing, like, fighting space aliens in their garage with their pet lion all night long or anything, but it has a really valuable use case. The only challenge is when they asked people who utilized it what percentage were really interested in using this, it was about 30%. So what you have to be careful about is, A, we're kind of in a bubble out here, right? And if you roll out into other parts of the country, the world, it's not as compelling. And two, is this a must-have thing? Because when we look at it from the venture side, we're saying, like, we want your users to want to kill and die for your products, right? This isn't like, yeah, it's pretty cool, like maybe a third of the time I'll use it. We're hoping for a little more. If, Facebook, Google were like, yeah, just 1/3 of the time you use it, we're going to be okay. They wouldn't be gigantic companies. So,
I just want to jump back a little bit to the original question, but from a different perspective. I think, to me, at the end of the day, VR and AR will always be different use cases, because AR want to present you, want to augment your current experience with a current reality, right? But VR want you to forget about the real life and just be in the other world, right? But in terms of from a enabling technologies perspective, VR and AR are actually sharing the same enabling technology. No matter SLAM, position tracking, content creation process, or content delivery process, it's all the same. And I think very likely that at the end of the day, for VR and AR, it's going to become the same device, and it's going to become the glass like I'm wearing right now. If you make the glass transparent and put some information overlay, that's AR. And if you just block the holes and present a different image, then it's VR, right? So I think, and that's kind of the reason why we talk about VR and AR. We talk about the difference, but at the end of the day, when we find a topic, we just use VR to kind of to represent both VR and AR. I think at the end of the day, it's same enabling technology, but different use cases.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, today is draft day, and one of the more interesting use cases I heard of, being a big Stanford football fan, is the use case where they were training quarterbacks using, and I guess you would call that an augmented reality system, I suppose. I don't know if it's augmented or virtual, but guy would take football and drop back, and he'd be simulating defense people rushing. And
if you're talking about Striver, they're using VR. But
you would call that VR?
Yeah, well, it's VR because they've pre-recorded the games so that you can see like the line coming at you. Augmented reality is like I'm here talking to you, and like I pull up data, says your name, last conversations we had, all that stuff. So I'm still here.
Yeah, they are doing the training in the lab, not in the field. I think if they put it in the field, it's gonna be AR.
That would be AR.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just in case anybody
or it'd be a really
wants to
short
know,
game.
they've been doing that for like 30 years. They're called flight simulators. We go in a room and you learn how to play. So I mean, really what we're doing is taking kind of a newfangled approach to technology and doing that. But these all become adoption pieces, right? Which is if you find a cool use case, then people are going to be interested in going out and buying this stuff. The question is, what's the killer app?
Which one?
I'll pick one.
All right. Well, that's a great question. Thanks. What's the killer app?
I'm here for you, Steve. Just throw me the ball when you need something. I'm good.
I mean, I think social is a killer app just in general, and then I think education is the other thing that VR does better than our current systems. So you can actually, like I said before, you can experience more faster than ever before. And that those two are my, I don't know if I said that before actually. I've spoken like 4 times today, and like I'm mixing and matching like what I'm talking about.
It's okay.
How's it going? Am I talking about Bitcoin yet? And then for AR, I mean, there's, I don't know, like, and also gaming. I mean, it's gaming, social, and education for VR, and for AR, it's data something. Industrial.
All right, we're gonna move on to another member of our
B2B.
panel.
It's B2B. I figured it out. It's B2B.
Okay. What do you think the killer apps are?
What's that?
What do you think they are? The killer apps?
Okay, so I'll throw something out. So, being an investor, you might have heard must-have versus nice-to-have, right? So I don't know that I've ever seen a must-have AR or VR application, but perhaps the one that's
Have you
that
seen
comes.
Have you seen the movie Iron Man?
The one that comes closest to me is therapy. Is therapy, right? Cure this phobia, cure that phobia, pain management.
So what you're saying is healthcare. Healthcare is a killer app.
Okay, if you want to
Let's
say
just
that.
bucket it up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we're
want it
on
to
a
be more
clock.
colorful, but yeah, let's do that. So I think that's one place where people are willing to pay probably a lot of money, and it seems to be very effective, right? Like, you hear stories of developers curing themselves of fear of height by accident, just because they develop an app that takes place on a ledge, and they have to look at it for a long time. So I'll just stay with that.
Just to plug a couple of our companies, there's one called Fearless that's doing cure spiders, and then we have one that's for fear of public speaking and learning how to do communication. That's called.
And that's how
Virtual
well it worked.
Speak.
Look at Adam. This
Just
He was
kids
really
with all
quiet.
that Samsung Gear headsets.
he was
downloaded
really
from
quiet, couldn't face a crowd before that, and then used that, right?
Completely. It's where I learned. It's where I learned all my magic.
Yeah, so the killer app. On the VR side, I think I really agree with Adam in that I think in the short term, the killer app is gaming, right? And in the long term, education will be the killer app because the kids will be the generation who grew up with VR and AR as a new media, and they will be, and VR AR as a new media to them will be the natural go-to media to interact with. So I think education definitely plays a huge part in it in terms of the mass adoption. And no matter in the near term whether it's gaming or in the long term it's education, social is a big part in it. For gaming, it's going to be social gaming, and for education, it's going to be social education. And for AR, I think right now, most of the use cases and applications are actually happening more on the enterprise side, not so much on the consumer side, especially when we're talking about this AR glass-based type of application. Simply because there is no consumer-based AR glass, AR hardware as of now. But one thing I'd like to mention is that actually the most adopted use case in AR space is not Pokemon Go. It's actually QR code. If you think about it, QR code has been used widely everywhere. Especially in Asia, people use QR code to add contacts, to make purchases, and to do a lot of other different stuff as well. And QR code, when we scan the QR code, we didn't realize it, but it's actually part of the augmented reality use case. And I think going forward, there will be a lot of mobile-based AR use case that's being explored and being developed before the consumer AR headsets kicks in.
Technically, like there's audio AR also. So like Alexa is a good example of modifying, overlaying data on your actual world, but it's by audio. So Alexa, what's the weather? Alexa, and it isn't visual, but everyone always references visual, but it doesn't always need to be.
If I could add one, I think real estate's.
Also AR killer app, AI tigers, the tigers, the AR, my pet tiger.
All right. So yeah, real estate total killer app. I think the one that we haven't mentioned up here, one that's been kind of the viral piece of the internet as a whole, is user-generated content. And I think that is the fundamental missing piece right now in the VR ecosystem. When you're in a position where you're trying to rely on other people to figure out exactly what you want as a user, it's very difficult. And at that point, it becomes almost like what we look at as entertainment, which is a hit-driven business, right? You either got a hit or you've got a flop because you've got other people or it's like an end, right? So what you really have to drive at is a user-generated model, and that's where things like this first camera from GoPro that's priced in that $500 or $600 range that will let people experience this is, I think, what is going to change the dynamic. If you can go snowboarding and instead of a regular camera on your helmet, you now have this VR one, and you can go back and then show your friends how you almost hit the tree, and then you did hit the tree, and then all your stuff blew out. I mean, experiencing that, and that's really where social comes in, but the differential is user-generated. So, I'm not sure we're there. Google just had another announcement this week on that. There's some software that's going to make it mindful, but most of it's professional creation. And I think that is the piece that I just don't think we're there. The ability to create and the ability to consume at a user-gen level. We're just not there.
Do you think AR, VR is a good space for VCs, and which segments do you think are particularly a good pattern match?
Well, you're all in, Adam, so let them know.
Yeah, I made 55 investments.
It better
it's
work
a
out.
great space.
Watch him ask the tiger.
So there's a really interesting thing that happens with the adoption of technology. It's actually what I quote is Amara's law. It's an expectation growth curve versus actual growth curve. And so the expectation is that technology gets adopted on a linear growth line. What actually happens is that it initially has a little bit of a bump, so it exceeds by a little bit, and then it drops beneath the expectation line for a really long time before it exceeds expectations long term. Like the internet. The internet originally was oh, everyone's excited about the internet, and then everyone's like, oh, well, maybe the intranet's a thing, and then that's not a thing, and then over the long term, everyone here is probably on the internet half their day. So that's pretty crazy. But so that being said, VR is in this spot this year. So we went through an exciting time. Like Oculus got bought for $2 billion. Everyone delivered their headsets. The Samsung Gears, the Google Daydreams, all these really interesting, fascinating things. But now everyone's looking at the actual numbers and getting super critical because it's not what they want them to be. It's not like mobile numbers, and that's insane because nothing's mobile numbers. So this year is actually going to be what colleges would call a rebuilding year, in the sports world, and we're at the lowest point in expectation. We saw this in Bitcoin too. We saw like this huge upswing, huge downswing. Everyone left the market, and then it took off, and we're going high now. And then in virtual reality, we're just at the trough of whatever they call it, some trough. And now's the time to get in. Like this is when the people who were window shoppers leave, and the real hardcore people get in. And I think a lot of venture capitalists are actually going to make some major bets this year because they know that. So that's my little bit.
Yeah, I think you have to get the timing right, and that's very difficult to do, right? That's one of the things that VCs need to be really good at, and I think we're going to see a lot of related technologies come and go, and some will survive, and for those that survive, it'll be a really good bets to be in, but only time will tell. So I don't have a better answer for you whether it's a good thing to be in or not. I think it'll be good to be in a few things.
I have a little bit slightly different opinion on this point. I think VR as a sector is not a very good sector for Sand Hill Road VCs to make investment at this point. But for us as a VR-focused investor, it's good for us. And here's why. I think the Sand Hill Road investor, if they want to invest in VR as a sector, they are expecting a exponential growth in this sector. And right now, in terms of the mass consumer adoption of VR, we all know that the mass market adoption most likely is not going to happen with high-end VR. Most likely, it's going to happen with mobile VR. But on the mobile side, the content is not compelling enough. And the reason that the content is not compelling enough is that you cannot run the mobile headsets are not powerful enough to power a desktop level type of content on the mobile VR headset. So basically, before mobile VR have mobile motion controllers, have inside-out position tracking, have better screen resolution, and have more powerful GPUs and CPUs, and the mobile network is powerful enough, reach to 5G and reach to the next generation. I think it's hard for a mobile VR headset to power a desktop level type of VR experience. And before we reach that point, I think VR will not, it's difficult for VR to have the real mass market adoption. So I think that day is still around 2 to 3 years away. And I think that's a timing point when most of the Sand Hill Road VCs will start to make a lot of investment in this sector. That being said, I think right now is a good opportunity to be an early mover in this space before the space is getting overcrowded, and to learn about what's happening in VR, and to try to learn the lessons. And when the day when we are ready for the exponential growth comes, we have a better leverage to win the game.
So I have a good investment for you, GridRaster.
All right, let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's definitely that's the thesis behind GridRaster.
Right.
So what we're all talking about is what we call pattern matching in the venture space. What we're trying to do, from Adam's example of the Amphora curve. I like that.
Amara's law.
Oh, Amora's law. Okay,
Yeah.
I like
If
that.
you quote things that are laws, everyone thinks you're brilliant.
Really?
It's a new
Lawyers learned that a long time ago.
Yeah. Really,
So we call it pattern matching.
We'll
What
call
we're
that
trying-
Adam's Law.
Adam's Law.
So what we're trying to do is figure out how we match this against other adoptions that have happened, as I was saying earlier, in other markets, because that's helpful for you, helpful for us to understand when it's time to get in, right?
You know what? But the winners really just break the pattern completely. Like and so like everyone, like I agree. I mean, I think that common knowledge dictates that it's pattern recognition. It's actually identifying when the pattern breaks and you should throw your money in.
Well, but that's part of the pattern. I mean, part of the pattern is like this year is kind of a bit of a down year. Everybody's coming off the kind of slow sales of certain pieces. We also have the next wave of headsets getting created, which are all-in-ones, lower cost, Qualcomm, Intel, people like that playing, which is going to make a big difference. So, you know, I think what you have to do, and this is where it's getting the pattern matching, is a great example is like e-commerce, which I think Adam was talking about intranet. But if you boil a little closer to e-commerce, there was a lot of investment in the technology behind e-commerce. It started to get deployed, but consumers weren't ready in the early 2000s for e-commerce. And it took a number of years for people to be comfortable giving their credit cards and buying things. And it started with simple things. And today people are willing to buy scary things on the internet. I mean, everything from your medicine to your fresh food to everything else. So what we have to do is look back at that. And as a tech investor, you know, we were investing in e-commerce platforms and, you know, different platforms to enable that. Then those first e-com companies came in 01, 02, 03, but they totally were blown out because the consumer wasn't ready. Then by 05 and 06, you had the convergence. You now had a consumer that was educated enough, the internet was fast enough, people were willing to start buying things, and then there was another meaningful explosion in there. And then we were caught with a downturn here, which actually made it accelerate even faster because it became a cheaper way to buy things. And see, these are the kinds of things that when Adam says, well, where's their pattern that breaks? That's a downturn where saving the tax or buying it from Amazon a little cheaper than around your local area made a big difference. So what it's helpful for you to understand is if your business takes time to create, let's say you're a content creator, education, healthcare, where it's gonna take you time, years potentially, to generate a backlog of content to be able to make available to a customer, then your starting point's probably now. This isn't like, let's wait till the big boom happens and let's go start building software around that. It's creating it now. Now, what you have to understand is we might not be your best fit in terms of finance because you've got to remember our time cycle is much faster than that. The entire lifespan of your average venture fund is 10 years. That's what we're capped at. So even if you're the most exciting educational company in the world and it happens on the 10th year and 10th minute, it's like scoring a touchdown 5 minutes after the game's over. It just doesn't matter to us. So what we're looking for is that explosive growth at a quick level, like I was saying. So pattern matching is important. Now, if your business is very actual right now, like real estate, and this is going to be something that a marketing spend can cover, an expensive piece of equipment, expensive content capture and development, well, then that makes sense. And if it becomes enabling technology for a real estate person, then that additional spend, that additional cost can be really easier. Research and development, drug development, you know, really high-end IoT, what we call the industrial Internet of Things, right? Working in nuclear reactor training is great. So if anybody's doing nuclear reactor training, get started now.
I don't know if any of you might think you have a belief that about AR and VR that's contrary to the industry norm, and if so, maybe you could share that.
I mean, Adam is the industry, so as Adam's law would dictate, anything he says is the industry. He's invested in every single VR company out there.
So
there were a lot of deals I looked at in order to get to the 55 I did, but yes, as far as the market, basically back in the market. Contrarian. I believe that VR is going to be a bigger industry than AR. That's contrarian.
Yep.
So that's it. I mean, and my logic is pretty sound here. It's AR is dealing with the limited reality that is, and VR is the infinite. So you can create worlds, you can create things. It's the imagination. So that is my contrarian view.
Okay. Anybody else have one they want to toss out?
I propose this question, so I better answer it. So to me, there are a lot, and I'd like to mention one of them. I think as a VR investor, I'm not a believer in 360 video, and at the same time, there are a lot of investments being made into the 360 video space, no matter on the content creation side, companies for example, no matter on the platform side, building this kind of YouTube VR for 360 video, YouTube for 360 video, or Netflix for 360 video, or building the capturing technology to capture, building the 360 video cameras. So I think VR, first of all, VR is an immersive media, and there are two things that VR is doing really good that the other media doesn't do very well. So number one is immersive, and number two is interactive. Being a video itself, you don't have the interactive part. So I think being immersive is a bottom line that as a VR type of a media, you can't go below this bottom line. But 360 video, you don't have the 6 degree of freedom, so it's not true immersive. So that's one of the reasons. And the second reason is that I think within the development of new technologies like volumetric video or light field technology, when 360 video has become mature enough to be distributed and to be consumed, I think these new technologies may come up and become equally easier for the content to be created and for the content to be consumed as well. So, so in general, I'm not a believer in 360 video, and I think that's different from a lot of people in the industry.
So I'll throw one out. So I think we hear a lot about worker augmentation, industrial uses of AR, and my view is that sort of the intuition behind it, I don't think that's going to happen. And the intuition behind it is that if there was really a lot of value add to putting a screen next to my eyes while I'm working, we could have done that 15 years ago, right? We could have put a small screen up here, a computer on a belt with a battery, and so the technology has been available, right? So most of the enthusiasm is really around the smaller form factor, and I don't think that, just because we have a smaller form factor, it doesn't mean that the use cases all of a sudden have emerged, and definitely not at the price points that we are seeing for these glasses. Another intuition is that these, most of the use cases are typically around, adding instruction in front of a worker's eyes, and a worker is going to have to do a very complex task for that to really make sense. So, day-long tasks that have no repetition would make sense, but how many of those do you see out there? So I'm just not seeing that market come around.
Okay, well, thanks. I think now it's time for the audience to have questions, and
First of all, let's hear it for our panel. So if you have a question, come on up to the lectern. We'll form a line here. We'd like to take as many questions as possible. Introduce yourself, ask away. No pitches. This is not a pitch event.
and if you
We
have,
have bouncers in place in case that happens.
and if you have one panelist in particular you want to answer, feel free to
No one else is lining
say
up.
that.
That's right. Step right up.
No one else wants to ask any questions. So, no one's talked about haptic technology, and Adam, especially you. I would imagine if I was sitting in your guys' seat, that's where I would be investing. I feel like the VR stuff, you've kind of missed the boat if you're not in and have already invested, in my opinion. Where you're going to make bigger returns, I think, is in the haptic technology and the truly immersive technology. So, none of you have addressed that. I just was wondering, because that is part of VR, so.
Why don't you explain what that is first, because everybody may not know.
Yeah, so haptics, the analogy I would use is like well, actually, that's not really a great analogy.
Starting to sound like Charlie Sheen down there, man.
Yeah, it's the feedback. So like if I pat a cat on the head, like my controller vibrates. That's like that feedback loop is called haptic. Not sure why. And and there's some great technology in the haptics space. So you asked the question. So we looked at a lot of haptic companies. My issue with haptics is it's sort of like the mouse in a lot of ways, and the mouse was a low margin business once it got to scale. And so it becomes a commodity, and it's one of those things where it's like, I get it, and I think that there can be short-term money in like making haptic guns and haptic bow and arrow and haptic like things that sort of communicate that are different than the controllers you normally get. But otherwise, it's Oculus and HTC who are deciding what that controller is going to be. So that's my. We looked. I've looked, and I was interested in a couple, but we never jumped.
Yeah, so I'll add to that I think haptics are just one example of the full sensory experience that you could add, right? So with VR and AR, we're really focused on the visuals, but you could, what about having, a game chair that spins you around, or having the ability to walk around, or adding smell, adding heat, adding
but
wind.
we've tried all those. I mean,
Yeah.
dating back into the 90s, you could buy a little chair you sat in while you played video games at home.
Yeah,
And
so-
you're currently in a standard chair, so that didn't catch on.
So basically, the experience gets more and more real with each sense that you add. And the question is, where do you stop? What is necessary? What is cost effective? How many experiences can really be enhanced by touch that people are going to be willing to pay for? And is it touch meaning I sense that something is there, or is it touch that's going to give me the difference between touching a glass surface or a fabric? And so really you have to, I think, really trace it back to the use case. And so if you believe that haptics are going to have an enough addressable market, then go after it. I don't think it's there.
I'd sort of like to modify my answer just a little bit because I am negative on it as if it's the mouse. However, the book Ready Player One basically like sells the vision that you're going to be in a haptic suit and you're going to be able to essentially exercise while you're in virtual reality. Very true, by the way. Our future gamers, you're going to be looking at someone and you're going to be like, that guy's a gamer. And he's going to be like jacked out of his mind. And so I
started to sound like Charlie Sheen.
I think there's going to be an industry, but what I have sort of, and what has continued to happen time and time again, is that software does eat the world. I'm a much more software-oriented investor.
Okay, we got a line here. So
Would be like the mouse was to Windows.
Yeah, but the mouse wasn't like the best business.
It wasn't right, but it helped Windows.
No, but you could actually add gesture recognition as well, right? So you have a camera in the AR, and so you can involve the hand without having haptics feedback.
Haptics.
Hands.
Thank you so much for the great content. So, from to your point, VR is not new. You mentioned flight simulators. Now we can think of tank simulators. Thanks to car games, they have contributed a lot to autonomous driving. Now, Adam and Ephraim, you both, do you think that goggles are going to be the only conduit to a virtual world, or can we, let's say, think of maybe a whiteboard being conduit to a virtual world for a collective experience?
I'd go with Elon Musk's new neuro interface. I think that's really it. I think we just got to drill right in.
So there's a company called Z-Space, which lets you interact with a three-dimensional space in an educational environment, and you don't. Well, I guess you do need glasses, but not 3D goggles. You just need the regular 3D glasses that you wear when you go to see a 3D movie. And so there are actually other experiences as well that involve a projector on various surfaces. So it's not the only one. It was probably the most general purpose one.
I'd say like the other ones are going to be experiments right now. Nothing has been proven to be better or worse in the like IMAX VR experience, which they're actually building an IMAX VR theater or something in New York somewhere. But there are more, if you're referring to more like socially, like group activity based stuff, there are a bunch of these that are popping up. I actually just saw a cool tracking technology one where you can be Pac-Man. So you're the Pac-Man while you're like running around this map. And then there's one called The Void that's in Utah where it's overlaying. You still have glasses. Like you still do need the goggles, but you're like running through a warehouse with a bunch of like, aliens or whatever coming at you. I actually haven't done it. I just have heard that it's awesome. I want to. And then, So yes, I think it's gonna be like going to the movies, except hey, let's go kill some aliens.
I think it's actually this question and the previous question to me is actually a very similar question that we have different sensors, and right now with the headset, the virtual reality experience we experience is just the visual and the audio. We don't have the touch, we don't have the smell, and we don't have the other sensors, right? So if there are anything that's good enough, we definitely are very interested. But so far on the haptic side, I haven't seen anything that's good enough and consumer friendly enough to fit into, let's say, 99% of the use cases, right? When we use VR. And I think same answers for your question in that, if we can achieve this computer to neuron type of ways to achieve virtual reality, or if we have a machine, we know that dream is actually a type of virtual reality, right? So if we have a machine to push content to your dream, right? I think that's gonna be very interesting, and I would be very interested to check it out. But again, the technology is simply not there.
Like the movie Inception.
Or the Matrix, or like, yeah.
Right, you got to figure out which layer you are.
You've mentioned a few times about the content not being up to scratch, and I wonder if the panel have any thoughts for an experience that you would really like to recreate in VR.
Can you rephrase the question? Like, you're saying the content's not up to, we were saying content's not there.
Yes.
Like, there's not enough content is sort of what we're saying.
But if you could recreate any experience in VR, what would it be?
Well, I want a new one. I want a new experience, like something that's...
No, what would the content be? So what would you like to do in VR? Beyond
aliens.
just playing a game. What's that?
Yeah, kill aliens. Well, no, okay. I wrote a blog post about this. So VR really is about the superpowers that you're giving people. Like it's really, really awesome to be super strong. It's really, really awesome to fly. It's really, really awesome, and all these things like you can do in virtual reality. It's really, really awesome to have like 7 different types of guns and shoot robots, and so pull the gravity guns. I'm using a lot of weapon stuff, but like.
What about like horse racing or something, hiking, climbing Everest?
Yeah,
there you go. Something a little more.
Those are things
thoughtful.
I can do in the real world. I want something that's not in the real world.
Yeah, but the death factor. Right.
Okay, well,
It's such your video game, right? If the alien gets you, whatever. But if you fall down Everest in real life, it's
fly through space would be pretty chill. Build a different planet. Colonize a new planet, like that type of thing. That's probably what I would.
Have you seen the bird simulator?
The birds?
Yeah.
Like from Alfred Hitchcock?
No. So this thing where you lie down on it.
Oh, the flying one. The flying one. No, I haven't done it. I've seen it.
So I mean, my answer is, I used to play Elite when, I was like 14, 15, and now they have Elite Dangerous. You're basically a captain of a spaceship. And so when I found out that this is out there and available for VR, I promptly went out and got my Oculus Rift and got my high-end gaming setup and put it on, and I thought it was just so awesome for about 2 seconds when I realized that I'm getting dizzy because my chair is not actually moving, and I'm not getting the full body experience. And then I thought, oh, okay, so this is really just a big screen at this point. That's all the effect I'm getting. So my big disappointment is that in many cases
for haptics.
It might be no. I'm not.
I think you're just trying.
I'm not because I actually
we're going to end up looking like
had the
serious video game geeks up here if you guys keep this up. Okay?
I actually had the joysticks that matched the ones that it actually looks the same as it does in the game. So I had the full thing, but my problem was that the goggles didn't give me the full experience, and I think. Right now, the easiest thing to do is to shoot aliens and run around and shoot zombies because you can stand up with the.
Okay, guys, pull up on the aliens, man.
But if you want to fly and these more exotic experiences, then the goggles are not enough.
Okay, exotic experiences. We're going to go with that as like the underlying.
If I could add here, I have a feeling if you had a panel of women, you'd probably get a different answer.
Shopping in Italy.
Yeah.
I think to me that question is the same as asking, hey, if you are the god, what do you would do? Because we all have a lot of constraints living in the reality, but in virtual reality, you can do anything, right? So you can be anyone, do anything, and obviously, if Adam was a god, he want to create a bunch of aliens and shoot them, and if Istvan is a god, he want to be a bird. But I think basically these two questions are the same question.
Well, but this all brings back user-generated content. It's all about the user, and each user has something unique.
What's the point of investing in VR if Google or Apple will create a platform that kind of both hardware and software that kind of standardizes everything? I mean, are you guys looking for acquisition from them or?
Well, it's sort of like Facebook was built on the internet and then it was on mobile. They're neither an owner of the hardware, but they do own the software, and so we want to back applications that third parties can build through those platforms where we can, where there's opportunity to help people and solve problems. That's my quick answer.
Another way to look at it is look at what they are doing and look at what kind of partnerships they are looking to make as opposed to building in-house. And those are good opportunities to go into for your startup.
Also, Silicon Valley, R&D is augmented by mergers and acquisitions. So a big part of all of these companies is their ability to acquire. So not only Oculus, Instagram, et cetera, on Facebook, and there's a giant long list for Google and Apple and everybody else.
Yeah. And that's a very fatalistic attitude. I mean, when PCs were around, who would have thought, that Google would come or Facebook or Apple? I mean, those were all companies we think of now, but back then they didn't exist, right?
Disrupt the legacy is why we want to back the software.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
So I have a question. How many of you are familiar with the TV show on Netflix, Black Mirror? Can I see a raise of hands? If you're not familiar with it, it's basically the unintended side effects of technology, a couple of years in the future. My question for you is, as investors, how do you square away the financial opportunity with the potential long-term outcomes that are maybe unintended consequences? So say like 10 years from now when VR may or may not be dominant,
Give us your mobile phone, give us your car keys. All right, and so if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have people that came before us, any of those things. So the real question becomes, if you could live without those and then come back and ask us the question, I think it's more viable.
Yeah, I just think when virtual reality is more compelling than real life and people aren't going outside, do you guys think about that when you're investing, or is it kind of by the wayside?
Take the money and run.
I think.
No, I mean, you know,
It's like
technology.
Las Vegas down
no,
the backside of the
technology.
table, man.
Like every technology has its benefits, and you know, you could talk about a knife, right? So you know, we all have them, and you can kill people with it. So
We are nowhere near smart enough to answer that question. I'm just going to let you know right now. Like, we're barely getting through on our own.
So I mean, it is something that it's the question of like, where do you want humanity to go? And so I think Philip Rosedale, who founded Second Life and then High Fidelity, has a really great quote. He's like, you know, I don't get why we're all trying to get off the planet. Why don't we just go into hard drives? And that's his argument for going into virtual reality. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Like, it's a really difficult question because I just don't, like, I think that people, like, life is about figuring out what fulfills you, and, like, if these technologies fulfill the next generation, like, I don't know if that's good or bad. It's sort of a weird question. And that's what Black Mirror is discussing every episode.
Yeah, it's a cool show. I've actually used virtual speech, and it's a great app, and it kind of adds on to your life. You're not gonna like spend your whole life public speaking, you know.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Unless you're Adam. Did you spend your whole day public speaking?
Your whole day, your whole Thursday.
Hello everyone, my name is Naeem and I'm the founder of V Grocery Store, which is a virtual grocery store, so realistic shopping experience. So my question for you is based on my understanding, like Ephraim is kind of investor that is looking for 10x, 100x and should see it to invest it, so financial side. And Adam is more like fun side, should get excited, should see himself using the app or technology or anything, should be interested. And each one is like the logical guy, should see it step by step, should make sense, he should get it. So what would be one idea, one company that all of you guys will invest in, merge together, converge to like make sense for all of you?
We'd all invest in Facebook.
In virtual reality.
Facebook.
I don't know. You're basically like it's like venture capital partnerships. Like, how do they come to a decision on what deal that they're going to do? I would say we'd probably duke it out for 4 hours, and then I would be right.
There's a famous proverb that says, if two partners think alike, one is not necessary. So if you start there and you say that, you know, everybody brings a piece, and just like in any business or anything, different people, I mean, we don't all work together, but we all have partners, and you're only seeing one little piece of our world here, for example, right? So that, I think, frames up a lot of it, you know, and at the end of the day, getting all of us to agree on any one thing would be bad for the industry. You want all of us to chase different stars in this space because it's going to make it bigger.
Yeah, we all have different interests and stuff. I mean, I like crazy, weird stuff. So, like, show me something I've never seen before, and I'll, you know.
He'll give you money.
At our demo day, we had an Iron Man. Like, a guy literally flew in our back parking lot. Show me that. In VR, sure. That'd be cool, too. But it was in real life, and it was awesome.
Okay. I guess we've got time for two more. So we have two more, so we'll have two more.
I'm loving the dynamics on this board.
Perfect.
I think zombies, dancing, and flying. It's pretty sweet. I'm surprised no one said.
married because he'd never get a date now.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised no one said like hunting T-Rexes on the back of a raptor or something like that yet. You know, like Jurassic World style, but maybe eventually. So, hello. Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. So my question. So there's a lot of applications for the consumer side, right? Entertainment, fun, amusement, that sort of thing. So more on the industrial side, right? Kind of where the money flows for B2B, right? Where do you see that going? Because I think it's all, I mean, trust me, I'll be one of the first to try this stuff out too on the consumer side for, you know, you name it. But when a lot of money flows through the companies that are making billions of dollars a year or millions, whatever it might be, what are their applications going to be, if any, or if there are, I mean, what are they?
I mean, healthcare is like a top of mind. I mean, we've got virtual surgeries, et cetera. Psychiatric care is huge in VR. That's already happening. I mean, I think Adam's got some players there. And then, what you're talking about is really what we look at is probably the industrial Internet of Things, areas where these applications, mostly that's AR, where you're going to have overlays. So a great example, I mean, once a group we looked at, which they believe they have the killer app in AR, is automotive repair. So what you're relying on with a automotive repair person is they're going to memorize a manual or find their way through it. Well, as vehicles become more difficult and they're working on different ones, every time they have to fix another vehicle, they've got to get over to the computer and go look it up. Now imagine if they were looking through goggles and they could tap it and they're now seeing a cross section of what they're about to work on. Okay, now that speeds it up. I don't know what your mechanic charges, but my guy's like $175 an hour. And that's what the going rate around here for decent mechanics at dealerships are like kind of running. And if you could speed them up by reducing their time to knowledge, that's a huge gap filler. So those are things that I think over time that we're going to see more and more of. But that requires content transitioning. That requires platforms to get content in. Delivery, Ryan was talking about, there are not a lot of really good delivery mechanisms. I mean, wearing goggles, not going to work out when you're trying to work in an engine. So you're going to need some AR overlay mechanisms that are a little more, meaningful than what was your Google Glass of the first wave.
So one thing I'll throw out is industrial design. So designing cars or even phones, things that are more difficult to prototype, right? So you can just, things are being designed in CAD programs anyway, and why not being designed real time in 3D? Or
have I got a company for you?
Thank you.
Dimension 10. Go check it out. And then on top of that, there's one. Okay, I'm going to say two things real quick, and then I'll stop talking until the next question. But we backed a company called Primitive, and what they do is they've actually been to one of these events. What they do is visualize code. His goal is to graphically engineer and code. But the really cool thing that he found out was that a lot of companies have a problem with churn of engineers. And when you lose an engineer, it takes about 6 months for a new engineer to take over and actually add value to the product again for big companies. And so their first use case is now going to be walking through the code base for these engineers that are leaving to be able to get the new engineers up to speed faster. And it's a great, weird use case. The other thing is like this industrial thing where you're designing in social environments while showing stuff. But I won't keep going. We're good. Those are good answers.
I might add one about training. I think training is going to be a huge thing for companies. Virtual reality.
What was it?
Training. Training people to do different
Corporate
skills.
training.
Corporate training, software, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay, hi. My name is Dave. I'm with GeoPogo. But this question is about my field of architecture. Okay, now Autodesk started with architecture, pretty big, successful company. And architecture represents one field of design. Doesn't VR present an amazing opportunity to design without a desk, being tethered to a desk? So what are you seeing in this field?
Yeah. I mean, my answer is yes. It's awesome. And it is it's a huge opportunity. I mean, Tilt Brush, people are designing huge, crazy, cool things there. There are 3 others that are sort of in that space. We back one called Masterpiece VR, but then there's also Quill and Medium, and you're able to actually 3D sculpt. For actual enterprise-based products, I would recommend Masterpiece VR for the design part of it. But there are a lot of companies that are actually going after this. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, there's different companies that interface with different 3D software that already exists, like Revit has add-ons and so on.
Mm-hmm. Are you asking if there are any?
No, there are.
Yeah.
Yeah, each 3D drafting
I mean,
software.
what VR is using is like the natural tool of your body to be able to create.
Right.
And so the products that I just listed off are the best ones right now for doing that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? No other knowledge? Okay. Thank you.
Let's hear it for our panel. Let's hear it for our awesome moderator, Steve Horsberg. Let's hear it for Pillsbury and all our partners and sponsors. Let's hear it for our audience. Let's hear it for our event team and our video team. Let's hear it for me. I think that covers everything. Our video will be available on our YouTube channel in a few weeks. Our panel will stick around for a few minutes for networking. As a courtesy to our host, we'd like to leave the building by 9 p.m. You can continue the conversation at Starbucks, which is at 2000 El Camino Avenue. So thanks for coming. See you next time.